After many delays, Sony finally launched DriveClub, the game that was supposed to show the power of the PlayStation 4 in the fall of last year. What it managed to prove though was the problems of the AAA games development, being alongside Assassin's Creed Unity and Halo the Master Chief Collection a worthy example of what not to do. Although the game did manage to do good on some of the promises, there's still a lot of room for improvement. Without further ado, here's what I think of the game. DriveClub was marketed as a social experience from top to bottom, which would have advanced online functionality, all kinds of stats and ways to interact with your friends, but the truth is that it's mostly a solitary experience encouraged by multiple factors. We all know that the game had major connectivity issues even months after release, and while lately these problems have been mostly fixed, the online services provided by Evolution Studios are still unreliable. The tour and single event modes are the only game modes that you can be sure to have access to at any time. Thankfully, what these two can offer have enough meat to keep you entertained even if you don't or can't access the multiplayer. Tour mode puts the player through successive events in which they can win golden stars by completing objectives and experience through skillful driving. The stars are used to unlock new higher tier events, while the experience is used for leveling up your driver profile. Higher levels unlock new, more powerful exotic cars, which you will want to drive. The game is built so that in some events you have no possible way of winning on your first try. By competing in other races and racking up experience points, you can then unlock cars which can help you beat the problematic races. Except for the two progressions, the tour mode has nothing else to offer. There's no story connecting the events in some meaningful way, no final goal other than to win, or any other gimmicks. DriveClub is a game about racing, reducing the experience to its very essence, the driving. While playing DriveClub, I realized that Evolution managed to recreate the feeling that the Need for Speed games from the 90s used to convey. You get some exotic cars and locations and you make your own fun. Although DriveClub is no racing simulator, it still manages to be an authentic experience while also being approachable. You don't need to have a history with games like Gran Turismo or Forza Motorsport to learn how to keep the cars on the track and not on the dirt. Even though the game is easy to pick up, towards the end of the tour mode things get messy, and only by learning the tracks and mastering each car's handling you can claim victory. For the players that want the full immersive experience, the game has the options to deactivate all the HUD elements, leaving the player to rely on what's available in the cockpit. DriveClub has managed to become famous for two things: online connectivity problems and great graphics. Yes, this is one of the best looking racers on the market, but the fact that the multiplayer component was inaccessible for such a long time really did hurt the game's online community. Multiplayer races, when they actually do work, can become frustrating. The players are a big problem, preferring to bump each other early on to get the upper hand. Even though the game has been out for such a long time and the game has received several updates, the online component can drop at any time. It's also frustrating that you can't create your own lobbies and play only with your friends the way you want it. The game only has pre-made events generated by Evolution Studios servers with predetermined rules, courses and car classes for each one. Another consequence of the underdeveloped online mode is that most people won't get access to some of the best cars in the game. These are locked under the club component, which only works when the player is online. Imagine the frustration of the early adopters seeing the cars in the menus but being unable to unlock them. On the graphics side though, Evolution nailed it. DriveClub has by far the most detailed car models in any racing game available right now on the market, and some of the best environments. Just look around the car while racing and it's clear that each tree, each building and each speck of dust was carefully created and added to the game. The most impressive thing is that all the courses are living environments with real-time lighting, shadows and reflections, and also time of day cycles. Evolution also included some of the most powerful cars in the world in this game and has recreated them in such accurate fashion that each bolt, nook and cranny is where it's supposed to be. This is most obvious in the cockpit view, where you feel like you are in the car. This camera mode was so impressive to me that I rarely felt like changing the perspective to an exterior one during most races. Of course, the game is not without other faults other than those I already pointed out. A good example is the game's AI, which can fall into two extremes. The opponents manage to sometimes be completely dumbed down, following the racing line without a care, even crashing into the player in order to keep on track, while in other instances they are driving gods that can catch up to a player even after a major crash that sets them back for a good amount of time. And while we're on the subject of crashes, it's a good time to talk about the damage system. The cars only get minor visual scratches and bumps, but no mechanical damage. There is also the issue of limited racing types. You can drive laps around the track, you can sprint from point A to B, race for the fastest lap, and drift. That's all the game offers. Not to mention that the drifts are by far the worst type of events, with weird controls and badly explained rules. This is the only game that I have played which splits the course into drift zones and speed zones. And in spite of all that, DriveClub has managed to offer a satisfying experience each and every time I played it. The car selection is excellent, the tracks are some of the best in any arcade racer to date, the graphics are impressive and the controls are excellent, even though the frame rate is locked at 30 frames per second. If you own a PlayStation 4 and want a quality racing game, DriveClub is right now the only option. With all the game's faults, I really hope that Evolution gets a second chance at this franchise, because this game can be a really great starting point to an even better racing series.